Thank you so much for joining us today. I know this topic might be a little heavy, but please remember, whoever sitting next you, around you, we're all here to face this program. So whenever if you feel tense, just take a breath and let's relax and talk. So my name is Shiori Ito. I'm a journalist from Japan, and I'm also a documentary filmmaker, and I myself as well a rape survivor, and I had to cover my own story because it was quite taboo to cover in Japan. So today we have amazing guests, Zuhura and Nojus. Very nice to meet you. So let's get on question because we only have 20 minutes.
Yes.
Maybe if you want to introduce yourself really quick, you can.
Yes.
Please.
So my name is Zuhura Abdul. I'm from Tanzania. I'm a European Peace Commission ambassador, and I've seen some European Peace ambassador here. Yes. I am one of the co-founders of Youth for Change Tanzania, which is an organization that aims to fight against gender-based violence in my country.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning or afternoon, guys. It's a great pleasure to be here. My name is Nojus Saad. I come from a small town in northern Iraq. Basically, domestic violence means a lot to me on a personal level, as I've always seen women in my family, including my mother, getting abused by men basically throughout my life. So before we get to the session today, I just want to say a big thank you to Rickett for sponsoring me. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been here. So a big shout out to Rickett and the team over there.
Great. Thank you, Zuhura and Nojus. So let's get on a question. So the first question will be for both of you. So gender-based violence, it refers to harmful act for individuals based on their gender. So what are the main causes of gender-based violence? Can we first with you?
Yes. So, the causes of gender-based violence can be various. For me, I would like to mention the three main causes of gender-based violence in my country. The first one being restrictive laws and policies that promote gender-based violence in my country. And the second one being, the culture and social norms that, promote gender-based violence. And the third one being economic situation, which force girls and women to actually experience gender-based violence. In Tanzania, at Youth for Change, we are actually fighting against gender-based violence, and we are especially fighting against child marriages, teenage pregnancies, and female genital mutilations. So when you look at child marriages, for instance, the restrictive laws that I have said, the Law of Marriage Act in my country allowed girls to be married before their 18th birthday. Actually, you have managed to fight against this law, and right now it's banned and it's unconstitutional, but it's still there and it still exists that girls can be married before they're 18. So that means that they are forced to get married, and the law allows it. And when you come to the economic situation, girls are being forced because of the dowry. Sometimes somebody comes and they want to pay cows for the girls, and that's when they get married. And then we have the social norms that make girls feel like they're submissive. They should listen to the society. They're like they're nothing in the society when they've been born, and then they've been forced to get married. So that's for me would be the main causes of gender-based violence. But at the same time, gender-based violence is a personal phenomenon. When you are born, as your gender, it doesn't matter if you are male or female. But when you are personally thinking that somebody else is in lower gender than you, that is very bad, and that is can be one of the main causes of gender-based violence before you even look at the economic, the social, and whatever causes it is. It just comes to the personal level and what you think of yourself. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Zuhura. Let's get on you.
That was wonderful, Zara. Thank you. So in terms of, the causes for gender-based violence, I truly believe that the major cause and the most important one, and is present in every country, every society, no matter if it's developed or developing, is the mindset. The communities, society's mindset around how they see and perceive women is the absolute cause of domestic violence, especially speaking from my country. Women have always been seen as a property of men. Like literally, my male friends, they consider like being married or having a wife is like you have a property. I mean, I've heard my friends in college, I wouldn't call them friends, I would call them classmates, say that if they have a wife, she has to, work at the house and raise their children. She has to wear the hijab. I mean, she has to be respectful. She has to take permission for anything before she does. So it is all about the mindset. And this mindset is shaped by traditional beliefs, by culture, and especially peer pressure, which is very important. I mean, when you see all people around you, I mean, the way that they perceive and treat women, you're also going to have developed this mindset, especially for children and the younger generations that are growing up in such communities. I have a very powerful story that I want to share with you, which has actually, amazed me in a bad way, and I've been shocked by it. So, as a medical doctor to be, I'm not yet a medical doctor in like 2 years.
Great.
So, I'm in the 5th year of medical studies. And basically a month ago, I had to do like a 1 month clinical practice in a primary health center that is close to my town. It's close to my home in my small town. So I went there. I met this incredible, female doctor that, was meant to be the director of that primary health center, which made me really happy to see like a woman leader in such an important, healthcare field, especially for primary healthcare. So I met her. There was this 1 week. I was like in her office. We were seeing patients together. I was learning in the medical field a lot from her. She has a lot of experience. But one thing that was so shocking is that when we saw a patient that was coming for treatment. She was, the domestic violence survivor, and I did not know that. But she looked so traumatized. She could not even talk freely. I mean, she was like speaking, her voice, like literally the volume of her voice was so low that nobody of us, we were like less than 1 meter away, but we could not hear her. And the way that she was nervous, the way she was expressing herself, it was not normal. So I asked her what was wrong with her, because clearly her symptoms, her medical symptoms were not of any disease. So she said that she is a domestic violence victim, and she has a lot of problems at home. So I told her, what are you doing about this? It's very important, for example, that you connect her to any legal services. She said, to be honest, I would tell you this. She said, most of these women deserve this. That's why they go through it. So just imagine. She said that a woman's place is in the house. And I mean, she said, I am a doctor, right? Which a doctor, they have a very prestigious, place in this society. She said, I am a doctor, but my husband is dominant over me. And I truly believe, she said, that all husbands should be dominant over their wives. And she's very conservative and religious. And this, mindset of victim blaming, this mindset of internalized misogyny, especially coming from such women leaders, that are especially elderly women as well. These are the actual leaders in the community and these traditional communities. They are, at the forefront, advocating for this, and domestic violence to take place and justifying it. So it's all about mindset again. If you want to make change, we have to tackle this deeply rooted mindset around this issue.
Thank you, Nojus. Thank you, Nojus. In 2017, we had #MeToo movement, and this year, it's almost 5 years. And what has it changed? What hasn't? What has changed? And what kind of measure, do we need? Should it exist? Can you answer that, Nojus?
Thank you so much. That's a really important question. So first of all, before we do anything, before the nonprofits or the private sector or any community stakeholder does anything about this epidemic that is going on, we need to have a nationwide policy that, for example, allows us or makes our work way easier to make change in the community. So I mean, we're seeing a lot of countries that they don't have such a policy, especially in Iraq. They actually have a contrary policy that literally says that men have the right to discipline their wives and children. By discipline, it means they could abuse them however they want. So What I'm saying is, if there is a nationwide policy that criminalizes all sorts of abuse against women, that would be a major step towards making a change. And this policy, should criminalize all forms of abuse, including, and I want to specifically mention those, including exchange marriage, forced marriage, ransom marriage, like marrying for getting a ransom in exchange, FGM, forced divorce, forced prostitution by the husband, especially in terms of lower income families, which is common in our country, forced quitting from the labor market of women by their own husbands, which is very common as well, forcing children to drop out of school, especially girls in rural communities, suicide due to domestic violence. And I cannot start on this issue because it's very important. We're seeing nowadays, these women are being abused verbally, psychologically, physically on the daily basis for decades, to the point that they are literally burning themselves alive. You know how many cases of women have burned themselves alive as a form of suicide in Iraq? They just can't take it anymore. They lost their self-esteem. They lost the definition of themselves. And also, abortion due to domestic violence, battering children and women under any circumstances, and assaulting, insulting, and cursing family members. Well, let me tell you one thing. All these issues and the criminalization of these issues is actually present in the law that is, present currently in the north region of Kurdistan. There is a law that criminalizes all of this. And you know why they included all of these issues in this law? Because it is so common in the community, all of these practices, that they have made a law, finally, that criminalizes all of this. But guess what? This law is only taking place in the big cities, and it's all accessible, and people are actually aware that it exists, only people from the big cities. And even from the rural communities and underserved communities or semi-urban areas, I want to be the most inclusive as I could, they have no clue that this law exists. Even if they do, they would never, ever report a case of domestic violence because the society says it's normal, you have to put up with it.
Thank you. I wish this session is longer because we can go on and on and on. But next question to Zuhura. You talked about the legal system, and sadly, about 1 in every 3 women in the world, in this room maybe, have been faced physical and/or sexual violence. So what kind of measure the government should take, and how can we support to take the government to do something? What can we do?
Yeah, thank you very much, Shiori. So for me, my ask to the governments would be to support activists, to support governments that are fighting against gender-based violence and sexual violence. And I would like to say that, the government, when they come into power, they have a lot of issues that they want to tackle. They have their own political agenda that they have put them in place, when they ask for voters. So most of the time, gender-based violence might not be one of the main agenda when they're asking for votes. So it's up to us as activists to make sure that we make the government act, because sometimes they stand in stadiums like this and they say things like they're going to do, but then when it comes to implementation, that's the issue. So for example, in my country, Tanzania, we have a lot of laws and national policies and all of that, but the issue comes to implementation of those policies. So it's our role as activists in making sure that the government acts on those laws and those policies and making sure that gender-based violence ends in our countries when we go back. And also, I would like to ask the governments maybe to change the language that is used when addressing this gender-based violence. For instance, if you look at the language like child marriage, how can a child agree to get married? Child marriage itself is wrong. You should say things like child rape, or something like I don't know, something that makes this look as it is. Because when you say child marriage, you're hiding the truth of what exactly it is. So I would ask even the language itself to be changed on when addressing these issues. So they should change the language. They should work to support activists and governments that are aiming to change and ending gender-based violence in all the countries.
You know, that's funny because it's kind of opposite in Japan. Our marriage, the age that we can get married is now 18, but the age of consent that you can give consent for sex is still remains 13. That means that you can be a mother at the age of 13, but you can't get married at the age of 18. So yeah, there's always this really stupid, crazy legal law that still lies there, and that's something we got to do. And therefore, I really thank you to do all your activities. And we have so many questions, but as we don't have much time, I just kind of want to jump onto using the social media. You know, we've been witnessing how empowering the social media can be to support and talk about gender-based violence. But on the other hand, it could be threatening for all of us to speak about these stories, and including myself. So I'd love to ask how you're tackling with the social norm, but slash the social media trolls, and how can we also support when we see such a negative, comment going around on the internet? Can we start with you, Zuhura?
Yes, definitely. So when the technology era came with a lot of problems, especially with the issues of gender-based violence, because right now we have a new issue that is coming up, which is cyber violence against women and girls, We have entered into a social media. Most of the time we open, let's say, a Facebook account, Instagram account, and we have not been taught, on the effect, on what we're going to meet there. So sometimes, a girl can maybe take a picture and maybe post it online, and you see a lot of comments going on there about how negative it is, your breasts are too big, whatever, So we have not been taught. We usually face this by surprise. And the bad thing about the effect of cyber violence against women and girls is that the effects are emotional. You will not see like physical effect, or you cannot go and report because somebody, who is doing that is maybe sitting in China and you're in Tanzania, so you cannot say to the police, like, I have this man, I want to be caught because he has done X, Y, Z on me on social media. So how to tackle this? I would like maybe to ask the tech companies to implement the policies that they have put in place, because there are policies, and most of the time you just, when you're opening, maybe you are joining Instagram, accept our policies, you just click, but there's other policies that are there to, to empower, to make sure that women are not facing violence. So I would like to ask the tech companies, to implement the policies. When somebody has done something, they should be caught. They should be made responsible for what they have done, That's what I would like to ask.
Yeah, I mean, have you paid for Instagram or Facebook these days, or Google? And they're still the biggest company in the world. So yes, they should be the one who's being responsible. So if you know anyone in the company, please let them know. Thank you. So what do you think about the social network?
Thank you. So first of all, I'm a firm believer in the power of technology and the internet. I think it has transformed my life, personally. If it wasn't for it, I would literally have nothing that I have right now, which is a huge blessing. I mean, coming from my marginalized town. So when it comes to the social media, I mean, there's not only we can point fingers to the tech companies for that. I mean, of course, policies that are present around cybersecurity and cyber violence are extremely important, but we're all using technology by the end of the day. I mean, for example, as you see on television, if you see a content, I mean, you will not blame the television company that made the television, the TV, on the contents that are going on, for example, against your beliefs. You would blame the ones that are, that have made the content, that are publishing it. So it's very important to get all these stakeholders that are on the media, that have power, like religious leaders in particular, and for example, government officials, these large companies. It's extremely important to educate them on this issue and leverage these platforms, for change. And as an example, we're seeing a lot like in the Middle East region, especially nowadays, they are promoting a lot of hatred towards the feminist movement in particular. They're using religion as an excuse. They're promoting literally like hatred and hate crimes like publicly around the LGBTQ plus community. Especially like it's a new concept that people have a very few understanding upon. So they're using these religious, like they're deeply like rooted religious beliefs as an excuse for justification of the attacks or even murder of the LGBT community. And now in Iraq, they're literally about to pass a law, the parliament, to criminalize homosexuality, which will put the lives of activists and anyone that is associated with the LGBT community in danger, and will justify literally the murder cases of LGBT activists and anyone associated with that, which is a huge shame. I mean, we have seen a transgender women being murdered brutally by their own families a few weeks ago, and literally no law was there to hold the perpetrator accountable. So it's all on us. It's all on us, the community that are on social media. And language barrier is huge as well. I want to emphasize that one last point. We're seeing like a lot of content in the Middle East in Arabic that are like so anti-feminist, so anti-human rights, I would say, so anti-LGBT, so anti-basic like human dignity, but they're all in Arabic. So the international community does not know anything about it. So you guys cannot engage. And we're seeing the local community, with their comments and with the way they're brainwashed, they are supporting, this massacre, I would say, this insanity, which is really unfortunate. It needs a massive community education online, especially coming from religious leaders and these, big leaders on these positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nojus and Zuhura. Unfortunately, that was 20 minutes. That was so quick. But like you said, it came down to all of us how we gonna tackle this violence through our smartphone, I guess, these days. And for me, when I see so many threats towards me, it's scary. But when I see just one comment that is with heart and love, that helped me a lot. So what I want to say is that once you see that kind of comment or any negative towards to gender-based violence, then please just leave 2 other loving comments so that we can fulfill internet world with more love. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. What a great panel.